So some of you know me, most of you know me. I've been a member of Shepherd of the Woods since 1989. My name is Fran Pepis, and my career outside of Shepherd of the Woods is commercial real estate broker here in Jacksonville. I belong to a company, it's called Colliers International. I started with the company back in 1987, been with them for 33 plus years. They have been in this market for approximately 47 years, so they have a legacy in the market. And we service 7 county areas within Duval MSA, or within our Jacksonville MSA. I think we've touched every piece of property here in town at least once. And any development that you see around town, you can either curse me or bless me, one or the other. Whether it be multifamily, retail, industrial land, or any kind of multifamily, single family, anything that you see coming up vertically or where there's a plow on it, at one time or another, my company's been involved in the development of that piece of property. Back in 2006, I began to become involved in the development of the church with regards to the sale of this property and also looking for an alternate site. What we do as brokers, we do an extensive analysis with regards to values, very similar to if you're buying a home. And what we do is we go out and take a look at product type that is very similar to a building that we are selling or purchasing. So when we were trying to sell this property, we put together an analysis based on #1, the zoning, which is residential for here, the size of the land, which is 2.75, and the infrastructure. We have about 20,000 square feet of building on this property. We put that out to market for several years, had 4 letters of intent on the property, and none of them came to fruition for a variety of reasons. At that time, 2 years into trying to market the property, we came back to council and we thought this was a call from God not to sell the property. And as Pastor mentioned, thought maybe multi-site would be the direction we would go. So at that time, he challenged us to go out and look for some property, which we did. It took us about a year to find the Lakeshore property. We overlooked it at one time at the beginning of our search and then came back to it about a year later. And when we came back to it a year later, we thought, this has to be the place. So we negotiated for about 6 months and bought it at a really reasonably discounted price of $40,000 an acre. At this point, we went back to council because we weren't using all the 40 acres, and the council and the congregation gave us permission to sell off 7 to 10 to 12 acres back in 2018. Within a short period of time, we had a buyer that came forward. He wanted to have 12 acres of that property. Most of it is as you come to the front entrance and stay to the south side, and you kind of loop around where the shed is, and about a third or so of the retention pond area. That's about the 12 acres we were looking at. And for 1 year, all of 2018, we had it under contract. We worked with the developers, engineers, architects, City of Jacksonville Planning and Development Committee, and just about everybody else that was involved in the development of that 12 acres. Just as we were getting closer to closing, the buyer got cold feet. He realized that there was a property on Greenland Road as you come into Vale Drive, big piece of property. We drive past it every time we come into Greenland, into our site. It's a very, very large piece of property that's sold for storehouse for RVs, tractor trailers, and mobile homes. So you see that as you come, it's just one big tract of land with a big piece of fence around it. The buyer for our 12 acres had that dream for our property. He was going to use it for outside storage, for RVs, for trailers, and also build warehousing as well, for contractors to put in their contracting supplies. So he had his dream, and it didn't materialize because he got concerned because the property on Greenland Road just closed, and the owner of that property started taking reservations for exactly what he wanted to do in the park. So he pulled the plug. 2019, we rolled it back out to market. Each time that we're looking to roll it back out to market, we are bringing buyers that are looking at the 12 acres, but questioning how it's going to be developed. It's a very odd piece. It's not square, it's not oblong, it's kind of L-shaped. And within that, we had our site, which we want to protect, which has our school and our faith center, all of our activities. We have to be really careful on how we develop the 12 acres. it became apparent that it became more of a challenge to sell just to 12 acres. While they were looking at the 12 acres, and they came on the property, they saw how beautiful the 40 acres looked, and several of them came forward and said, would you sell the 40 acres? We have a dream not to only do this, but we'd like to do this as well. So they started dreaming about the 40 acres. We, as colliers, only had the opportunity to sell the 12 acres. So as we became more aware of what was going on, we went back to council and said to council, we have opportunities to sell the entire 40 acres. Would you like us to do that? And at that point, I think we're here now because we have two buyers that came several weeks ago. We always vet the buyers to make sure that they have a dream, they're well capitalized like we can afford, and the last thing we want to do is work with a person and they're not well capitalized and can't develop the dream. So we vetted both parties, and the first party that came very excited about the property, wanted to do a charter school, wanted to do ministry, just was not capitalized at this point to be able to move forward at this point in time. We have another buyer that came through, very well capitalized, very well entrenched in our area, and is looking to use the property for a specific use, which is industrial. When we bought the property, we were placed in an industrial park with industrial users. It's not unlike for people to come through the park looking for industrial sites, which we have. So most all the buyers that have come through, with the exception of one, are industrial users. We at the time hadn't priced the 40 acres. We didn't know what the 40 acres would sell for. We were only chartered to sell 12 acres, which we had a $1.9 million price tag on it. So we were challenged at that point to develop a opinion of value with regards to the 40 acres. It took us several weeks to decide what that value is because it's, again, very unique. It has right in the center of the property, it has a beautiful, what we call beautiful swimming pond, 6 acres. It also has a significant amount of wetlands. When we priced it up, we looked at 22 different properties, and we started to peel it back to see what the zoning was on comparable properties, what the acreage was, how it was laid out, what kind of infrastructure was there on site. And when we went through that process, we determined that the value of our Lakeshore property, as it stood today, with all the improvements, was a little over $4 million. So we took that information back to Pastor, we took it back to council, and so here we are today. We have a buyer for the property who is very interested in wanting to purchase the entire 40 acres. They're not interested in purchasing the 12 acres. And we are considering a price with them close to $4 million. Does anybody have any questions up to that point with regards to our value, our use, how we got to where we are, what you're seeing?
Yeah. What's the value of this property?
Hold on. David, can I get you to walk up to one of the microphones?
Good morning. What's the value for the property, this property here? What's the value for this property?
We did a quick, we don't have this property on the market for sale.
Okay.
But in preparation for this meeting, last evening, one of the other members of our last meeting on yesterday had asked that question. I didn't have the answer to the question. So I did a very, very, very quick look. And I only compared this property to other churches that have sold within the last year because we are a church. And we've developed as a church. Our zoning here is residential. It's not commercial. It's a residential piece of property. So I only looked very preliminarily at the market to see what the value was. And we came up with a value between 2.6 and 3.1 million.